Before this video begins, I wanted to start by saying that as bleak as the world looks right now as far as gaming goes, there is a light upon the horizon. As scummy as these companies may seem, don't lose hope. Don't give up the faith that one day we will see another golden age of gaming, because as bleak as it may look, there is still a chance. With that out of the way, I also wanted to say that some people have been telling other YouTubers that covering stuff like this is beating a dead horse. To which I want to say this is exactly what we should be doing. We should keep covering this. We should keep beating this poor dead horse, because this is a horse that deserves to be beaten. As wrong as that sounds, giving up on beating this dead horse is exactly what the gaming industry wants us to do. People like EA, Activision, Blizzard, and Fallout 76's creator Bethesda, that's exactly what they want us to do. They want us to stop covering this news. They want us to go back to being our complacent, accepting selves. They want us to give up and forget the fact that Fallout 76 came with a nylon bag when a canvas bag was promised. They want us to forget that EA is willing to sue an entire country because they think it's okay to market video games that contain gambling products to children. And let us not forget Activision, Blizzard, and all the shit it's done. It's often been said that the power to change the balance is in the hands of the consumer. It's been proven time and time again when gamers have risen up and ripped their wallets from the malformed claws of greedy companies, and have said enough is enough. And it's been proven in the month of November that no company, big or small, is infallible. I'm your humble hostess Aubrey from Meverneth Gaming, and let's talk about the worst PR month in the gaming industry's history. Let us start off slow. Battle for Azeroth. Because it would seem that the game has been plagued with issues, some comparing it to Warlords of Draenor, to which I will say, how dare you insult Warlords of Draenor? I thought WoD had issues, but I've always felt that people have buried the really good raids and even decent dungeons under the hatred awarded to the story and the garrisons, which in their own right, yes, were crap. But at least in Warlords of Draenor, all the classes were playable, and none of them were segregated from content. At least segregated from content due to uncontrollable means. But as Battle for Azeroth neared, we received the news that some classes were not going to be ready. Here's the list of dead on arrivals. Enhancement Shamans, Prot Warriors, Shadow Priests, and Feral Druids. If the expansion had been delayed a month or two, maybe these classes or these specs would have been fixed, and maybe we wouldn't be sitting here lamenting and casting blame on a company that has proven time and time again that they have fallen from grace. And let's talk about Blizzard for a minute, because I honestly think the devs are innocent because of a single source. Jason Schreier in his Kotaku anonymous interviews. While many are quick to point out Jason Schreier's history with attacking and defaming the gaming YouTube sphere, kind of a dick move there, Jason, this article of his was pretty much an eye-opener. The eye-opening truth being that Blizzard may be like the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, in a constant cycle of self-destruction that can only end in one tragic way. You see, a friend of mine once said that the only thing that can kill World of Warcraft is Blizzard, and he may not be wrong. In the Kotaku article, we learned many developers and staff had done interviews under the guise of anonymity to reveal the truth. A new chief financial officer handpicked by none other than greedy scum Activision, the truth about Diablo 3 and Diablo 4, and news about Mike Morhaime that's hatched into a theory that not all is as it seems. But real quick, let's finish up with the fate of WoW. Because there was a time when Blizzard was in the meandom of soon TM. They would never rush something out. They would always take their time. In fact, the desire to push BFA out months before it was ready reeks of Activision's handiwork. Get it out so the shareholders can get their money. 8.1 looks to fix some of the class issues that we've had, but it's sadly not good enough. And if you were thinking of resubbing, I would say, honestly, wait till 8.2 turns out. Because aside from leveling a few allied races, the current content's dull, repetitive, and spits in the face of what claims to be a full-blown war between the Alliance and the Horde. This so-called war is little more than grabbing some flight paths, at least for the Horde, digging up someone's dead relative, and having an anticlimactic brawl. With the company, in this case Blizzard, outright refusing to get rid of Warforging and Titan Forging, a lackluster storyline that rivals Warlords for the top spot on the craptastic scale, and the development of the game constantly seeking to dumb down the classes, and implement systems that benefit the casual gamer over the people who helped make the game great. If a new MMO even remotely looks promising, i.e. Ashes of Creation, I'm not going to be shocked if there's a mass exodus from World of Warcraft, because the game, at least in its current state, seems to be in its death throes. And I'm not really sure who to place the blame on. I mean, the community's vocal about really good issues, but when we bring up class balancing, it seems we get ignored. The devs seem to be trying to cope with so many different spheres. The PvE sphere, the PvP sphere, the casuals, the hardcores, and yet we, the gamers, are the canaries in the coal mine. We're slowly dying from the noxious gases that no one at Blizzard seems to see. Yeah, we could blame Ian Hazzikostas for his poor decision making. We could blame the recent knowledge of Activision seeking to exert its influence. Because, as was rightfully pointed out, when they merged 10 years ago, you could say the corruption was much like the Emerald Nightmare. Small, insignificant, going unnoticed. Even during Legion, the signs of corruption were there, but they were mere tremors under the surface. And in BFA, Activision seems to want to exert its influence, sending its hand-picked chief financial officer, garbed in the pestilential greed of her company, to tell Blizzard how to do their jobs. On a side note, I almost feel like I'm insulting Warhammer, comparing Activision to the Plague Father Nurgle. But in a way, they're one and the same. Activision sending the CFO into Blizzard, knowing their history of being greedy? You wanna know what the first thing she did was? She called a meeting and told Blizzard that they need to implement cost-cutting measures. Miss Amrita, you are the former VP of Investor Relations, so I know you're likely good at blowing smoke up people's asses, but you just need to take a fucking step back, honey. Because you clearly didn't do any research on the company you were sent to rein in on behalf of your corporate masters. You see, Blizzard's very motto from the beginning, as Silicon and Synapse back in '81, was "We make great games." A foundation that was created before they even made a game. A foundation that your corporate masters seek to undermine and crumble. So, Amrita, take your cost cutting and shove it. Because you work on behalf of one of the most loathed companies on planet Earth. And because of your association with them, I would wager that your word carries about as much weight as a grain of sand. So please, do us all a favor, pack your shit, and get on down the road. Blizzard would do well to cut its ties with people like you and your corporate masters, the bloated, festering, money-hungry disease that is Activision. And they certainly don't need to be told how to do their jobs by someone who works for a company that makes games designed to print money. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, moving on, we also learned that this was not the end of the bullshit storm, because we found out the tragic truth behind Diablo 3. Which, by the way, was meant to have 2 expansions. But of course, those pesky shareholders and the higher-ups decided to can the game. Even despite Team 3 proving that, since launch, they have worked so hard to make strides to fix the game, removing the real money auction house, increasing the difficulty. But the team was disbanded after Reaper of Souls. And all we have in Diablo 3 right now, the Necromancer, Reaper of Souls, that's all we're gonna get. Project Hades was supposed to be the original Diablo 4. You see, Project Hades was a game that took Diablo 4 and the Diablo franchise in a completely different direction. It was a departure from the isometric style of the game's predecessors, and it sought to be more like a Dark Souls game set in the Diablo world. Sadly, however, it was not meant to be, as the lead left Project Hades, and thus the project was cancelled. It is, however, unknown whether or not the lead left because he had a falling out with the company, which, given all the news lately, I'm not going to dismiss as impossibility, or he just left because the project was cancelled. From the ashes of Hades, however, rose Project Fenris, which has been in development since 2016, also a departure from its predecessor, as its team has one founding mantra: embrace the darkness. Bring back all the grim, dark themes of Diablo 2 and cut out all the cartoony themes of Diablo 3. So where's the bad PR here? I mean, you know, it honestly seems like Fenris would be a good thing. Great new style. They're still trying to figure out if they want to be isometric or if they want to be a kind of over-the-shoulder view. But it would seem, either due to a communication error or simply not being honest with the Project Fenris team, Blizzard 2018 had no teaser. Even though the team was told that there would be a teaser, there wasn't one. No, what we got was the real bad PR. Diablo Immortal, the game that seeks to fuck over the original player base and appeal to young audiences in the West, but still basically being a fat kiss on the ass to the Chinese market. This leads us, finally, out of the frying pan, Activision Blizzard, and into the fire, because we are far from done covering the shameful things some of these companies are willing to do to satiate that dragon's horde. Introducing the #1 source of proof that corporate is willing to do whatever it can to make cash, Electronic Arts and the Federal Trade Commission. Oh boy. So the story is fairly straightforward at the start. Belgium is a country who has banned loot boxes in video games because statistical evidence points to loot boxes leading to an increased rate of gambling addiction. Fair. Before anyone wants to go being all pissed off at Belgium, oh, why would you ban loot boxes, blah, 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 blah. Just remember that Diablo Immortal is being marketed to China, who is known for their zealous censorship of pretty much everything, with special care given to anything gory, bloody, satanic, or of a homosexual persuasion. Sound familiar? Because the first three should. That's basically Diablo in a nutshell. At least Belgium, however, is trying to prevent children from becoming addicted to gambling. So, you might be asking, where the hell does EA come in? Well, they come in right through the fucking wall like some green dollar bill covered Kool-Aid man, as they're willing to go to court with Belgium for said country wanting to protect the youth within its borders. Let me explain this to you real quick. This is a US company willing to sue an entirely different country all the way across the ocean because they want to protect children. They want to protect children, and EA is willing to sue them for that. If you have ever needed more proof that EA is the physical embodiment of Satan, there you go. They are the physical embodiment of greed and corruption in human form. Why would you even want to work for EA? It's basically a career suicide with the shit that's been going on. Anyways, then, of course, we come to the FTC. Not to be confused with the FCC, the objective scumbags who want to remove net neutrality, because the FTC has decided to take on a noble mission, investigating the loot box business practices. Nine months ago, Senator Maggie Hassan, I'm just going to call you Maggie so I don't butcher your last name, asked the ESRB to make changes to the way loot boxes are rated. What was their course of action? To put a label on games that contain loot boxes. Sorry, but much like everything else that has come out of the mouth of companies, not good enough. And clearly, Maggie thought so too, because guess what? She went and she asked the Federal Trade Commission to investigate the practice as it pertains to children. Quote, loot boxes are now endemic in the video game industry and are present in everything from casual smartphone games to the newest, highest budget releases. Adding that loot boxes will represent a $50 billion industry by the year 2022. A $50 billion industry. I mean, I can't imagine why games companies would want to keep that treasure vault safe. And going back to the way EA is approaching Belgium, it's the same way tobacco companies viciously defended their products and their right to market to whoever they wanted. I'm surprised they didn't market their cigarettes to kids. In the end, the tobacco companies lost. And over time, cigarettes and tobacco have become heavily regulated, and packages always make you aware of the health risks. But the fact is, game companies are starting to act like the tobacco companies once did. It's kind of scary that history repeats itself yet again. The way a loot box can prey upon a child is much the same way a casino can convince you to spend hundreds of dollars chasing that shiny carrot. In essence, gambling requires three things. Consideration on behalf of the gambler, a risk, which in this case is the risk that the reward will be some common garbage like a spray or a voice line, and a prize, like a legendary skin. Unfortunately for the human psyche, the brain isn't fully developed until you're around your early 20s. And the most crucial development in those 20 plus years is the understanding of consequences. This is why they have age restrictions on things like alcohol, tobacco, and especially gambling. The brain just isn't able to understand the long-lasting ramifications until you get a lot older. I mean, have you ever been into a casino? The flashing lights, the sounds, the smells, it's all designed to bring you in. Even the rewards programs are a way of convincing people to stop in and have a little fun. You got $20 to spend, come on down to the casino, have a little fun. Loot boxes are much the same thing. Everything has been calculated and designed to get you addicted to them. From the length of time between opening them and seeing the reward, to how they psychologically affect your brain, giving that brain that sweet, sweet hit of dopamine. Furthermore, the Entertainment Software Association sent out a laughable statement that truly proves they think we're all stupid. Quote, "Loot boxes are one way that players can enhance the experience that video games offer." Really? Because the experience that video games offered was pretty good. I mean, you know, things like Spyro, Dark Souls, Monster Hunter, none of those games have loot boxes, yet people still spend thousands and thousands of hours playing them. Warframe, for example, another game where people spend thousands of hours. You know what none of them have? Loot boxes. Contrary to assertions, loot boxes are not gambling. Oh, I just proved that one wrong, didn't I? They have no real-world value. So, if loot boxes have no real-world value, then why are you selling them to people? I mean, if they have no real-world value, surely they should be something like Warhammer Vermintide 2, where instead of being able to buy them, you simply earn them as you go along. I mean, surely if they have no real-world value, they should be free, or at least earned instead of being able to be bought, right? Let's disprove more of this bullshit. Players always receive something that enhances their experience. Are you sure about that? I'm pretty sure when I'm playing Overwatch and I open a crate hoping for an awesome looking skin for, say, Ashe, and I get a voice line and a couple of other gray common items, I don't feel like that enhances my experience there, Entertainment Software Association. And they're entirely optional to purchase. This, entirely optional. Let me give you 2 cases where gambling and loot boxes were not entirely optional. Battlefront 2 and Destiny 2. Battlefront 2, when people started calling out EA on the loot box issue, because essentially loot boxes, everything that was, you know, impactful to the game, all of your perks and stuff like that, which actually majorly impacted the game, were behind loot boxes. All the major heroes behind loot boxes. And then, when they decided to get rid of the loot box item, you know what happened? They had to rebuild the game from the ground up. Because originally all the game was built to do was take your money. Little less of a egregious example, Destiny 2. Still egregious, but slightly less, because before the recent changes, Destiny 2, all it did was try and push you to use the real money store. I'm sure most people who watch this channel will probably remember the famous article that was put out where, as it turns out, because back in the day, when you could only hit level 20, after you hit level 20 and you hit cap, you could continue leveling up. And every time you quote-unquote leveled up, you got a free cosmetic engram, which you could go and open, and it would have cosmetic items in it. Well, people started questioning why it was taking so long to get them, and as it turns out, the developers, funnily enough, Activision and Bungie, not increased the requirement by 200%, not by 300 or even 400%. They had increased the requirement to fake level up, past 20, to 800%. So no, they are not entirely optional to purchase when the game developer, namely the people like EA and Activision, actively try and make it so impossible that you have to go and buy them. Take a look at one game that I love to pieces, Warframe. Warframe, you start out with a couple of weapon slots and a couple of Warframe slots. You don't have a lot of options, but at the same time, it is entirely optional for you to choose whether or not you want to buy Platinum, the premium currency. Because honestly, You can just go and trade stuff that some people want. There are mods for weapons in the game that sell for as much on the market as 50 real-life dollars worth of platinum. 50 American. Insanity, but it gives you an alternative. Same with Crossout. Crossout, free-to-play title. They have a system where you can use coins, and coins are used for everything from increasing the cap on the amount of scrap you can get per week to being able to essentially craft items. But the thing is, it's not necessary for you to go and buy the coins off the store, because most of the stuff, including scrap, can be traded on the market for actual premium currency. Let's go back to this shitfest. They enhance the experience for those who choose to use them, but have no impact on those who do not. See once again my argument of Battlefront 2, which was designed from the ground up to make people buy loot boxes, because essentially the only way you could progress was through loot boxes, negatively impacting the people who did not use them, and extremely enhancing the experience to the point of being broken for the people who did. And by the way, Entertainment Software Association, I really hope you're lying when you said that statement, because if you actually believe this, you are delusional. You need help. Much like the rest of the gaming industry needs help. Now that we've got all the emotional stuff out of the way, I'd like to tack on to that one thing, or several things actually. Over the past 6 weeks, I have seen people canceling their subscriptions, giving up on one of the greatest MMOs in the gaming industry. One of the longest living MMOs of the gaming industry. I've seen friends saying they're going to move on to other games, and it kills me. It makes me sad that the game that helped bring me, so many awesome people, so many cool friends, the place where I started to actually be a social person, the place where I started to hang out with people who I now consider to be pretty badass, might finally be dying. It sucks. And in my honest opinion, we have no one to blame but the AAA companies. The companies who have shareholders, and the companies who have coincidentally shown that they only care about our cash. Over the past 3 weeks, I've been playing a lot of different games. Obviously, it's the Christmas season, so I bought myself a few gifts. I've been playing Monster Hunter World, and I'm fully intending to make a Let's Play on Spyro. These two games are different from all the other AAA games, because Monster Hunter World is a game that actively goes out of its way to make sure you're comfortable. It gives you free cosmetic items, and it doesn't charge you for them. It has DLC, yes, but it also has exceptionally awesome crossover events, like the event with Final Fantasy XIV, where we saw the Behemoth become a huntable monster, one of the most titanic and titular enemies of the Final Fantasy universe. Big, strong, muscular, and terrifying, perfect monster from the Monster Hunter world. We also saw one of my favorite free-to-play games of all time, Warframe, just released Fortuna. A brand new expansion that's completely free, and gives you a completely new zone to explore, open world style. All of this coming from developers who prove time and time again that they're not in it for the money. They're in it for the gamer. And it makes me worried about what the future is for the gaming industry, because if you look at World of Warcraft, every day, people leaving, people moving on. The game's had its run, but what's going to happen to the game that helped me, jump into YouTube? What's going to happen to the game that helped me meet so many awesome people? I haven't been this worried since Warframe announced its merger with Perfect World LTE. Whatever the hell the name of that company is. The ones who love to put loot boxes and other kinds of microtransactions in video games. And while that never really affected the state of Warframe, it feels like Perfect World pretty much runs every other company in the world, because that's all that's in current games these days. But anyways, I just wanted to get that out there, because I am looking forward to making more Let's Plays in 2019, most certainly. Maybe not right away. Maybe even starting in 2018 with some of the old Let's Plays to finish those up before 2019 and all of its awesome releases. This has been a shit year. Absolutely shitty year. All of the stuff that's come out about gaming has seemingly gotten worse and worse and worse on a news front. But that light at the end of the tunnel, that hope that you should hold out for, is 2019, and specifically February. because we're getting some titles that really look good, I hope. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been your humble hostess, Aubrey from Riven F Gaming. I won't keep you any longer. I know 26 minutes is pretty long. But I just wanted to say, if you are new here, don't worry. I'm not always this angry or emotionally unstable. It's just, it's a topic that really gets me going, because it's so frustrating to see loyal customers essentially bent over the table and had unspeakable things done to them. It's not right, and it's unfair to the consumer to be lied to, and I feel like we have to keep covering this. So again, thank you all so much for watching. If you are new here, I encourage you to subscribe. If this is the first video you've seen of me, well, oops. But I love you guys. You all mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.